Um, Thank you so much, and I really appreciate everyone for coming to my capstone. And welcome to my capstone thesis called Singing Heart Totality, Bridging the Maternity Healthcare Gap Between the Developing World and Rural Liberia to Decrease Infant Mortality and Increase Prenatal Care. My name is Arjealy Wisseh. I am a fourth year graduating interior design and associate in liberal arts, minor in construction management, and immersion in global justice. I just want to say thank you to my capstone committee for helping me through this journey and making it possible. My capstone chair, Mary Golden, assistant professor and program director and program chair of the interior design program at RIT. Rodolfo Agrea, head of the Rodolfo Agrea Studio and creative director and Jupiter Lighting. Christian Perry, an architect at Ewing Cole and a healthcare designer. The location of the project is Sano County, Liberia. Population is 113,000. The overall population in the country, Liberia, is 5 million. And the distance from Sano County to the capital, which is Monrovia, is about 225 miles. During the dry season, because of lack of infrastructure and roads, it can take up to 8 to 9 hours to get to the city. But on a rainy day, which usually they have rainy season, which can last up to 4 months, that can take up to 4 days to get to the city. The question for this capstone: what are the issues and challenges that are prolonging the maternity health care gap between rural Liberia and the developing world? Today, this will be the table of contents that I'll be carrying you through. So first, we're going to look at the research agenda. Next, we're going to look into the literature review. Next, we're going to look at the creative agenda. We're going to look at the inspiration, programming, materials, case study, flow plan, and rendering. So the research agenda, within the research agenda, I did both quantitative and qualitative study. Within the quantitative study, I couldn't get survey because the distance and internet was very hard. So I did literature review and I did interview. Within the qualitative, I did case study as well. I did literature review as well. The literature reviews. So what are the problems? Infant mortality is a huge issue in Liberia. 93 to 110 out of 1,000 infants die every year. 29% of those deaths are premature, 28% of deaths are intrapartum, 19 is sepsis or tetanus, and these are kids under the age of 5. Also, another issue is maternal mortality. 6 women die every day from giving live birth. 80% of those deaths are caused by internal bleeding. The reason for this is because Liberia lacks sanitation, lack human resources, lack functioning facilities, lack of maternity care, lack of worker equipment, war, corruption, and lack of money. So you can see in this picture here, you can see some of the facilities. On your top left, this is a clinic in Sano County, Liberia. Most of the time, actually all the time, that clinic look like rundown tool sheds, and the hospitals look like rundown clinics. You can see the worker preparation on your far upper right. The lower picture is St. Joseph. That's supposed to be the best hospital in Liberia in general. And this is the surgical ward of St. Joseph's as well, on the bottom right. You can see that infrastructure that I talked about earlier. You can see how the road dipped in, not good roads. You can see the destruction within the top right photos from the wall, those infrastructure being destroyed. And you can see how tight on your bottom left, how tight, niche and tight medical workers spaces are to work. According to Liberia National Survey and Data Collection, Data collection is very, very challenging for this reason. When you lack proper facility, it is hard for you to be able to collect data. For this reason, Liberia data actually is collected in 3 ways: blood testing, survey, and questionnaire. It is very hard to collect these things. And also when it collected, because of the lack of infrastructure, hard infrastructure, it actually makes it difficult to even get it to the proper lab. In the process of that, some of these evidence are destroyed. For this reason, only about 35% of Liberia birth is recorded. And also we have to think about infant mortality as well. Only about 35% of this is recorded in the country. And unfortunately, many birth and death are unaccounted for. So I propose a freestanding maternity center that specializes in women and children care. Center that will allow medical profession to be able to study, as well as do that work much more efficiently and become effective in decreasing infant mortality within the region. So the concept of the building, the concept of this is the overall shape of the campus itself is circle. Circle has a strong significance in many African cultures, including the people of Sanu County, Liberia. The shape of a circle represents totality. Totality encompasses the overall existence of the universe, which is life, birth, death, and rebirth. This project is a position of the rebirth. It's in the position of rebirth. The center will provide a total and holistic healing environment, which will be grounded in culture and identity. The goal of this center is to decrease infant mortality in Sanu County, Liberia, also, and act as a model as a future facility in the country. The objective. So the creative agenda, within the creative agenda, we're going to look at objective and subjective as well. So within the objective, we're going to look at programming, we're going to look at flow planning, we're going to look at maternity research and rendering. Within the subjective, we're going to look at needs, architectural, spiritual, and nature as well. So the reason why I chose to color Black, pink, and white, there's a significant reason. I know many people would say, oh, maybe because it's a birthing center, so that's why it's pink. That's not the reason. There is a cultural reason behind it. In many African culture, Black glorifies the sun. It also means joy of life and love, and also means absolute consistency, eternity in the womb. White means transformation or transition. Red means life and good health. So my inspiration for this project within the design aspect is the wall of Benin, and also a traditional object, which is on the wall of Benin on the top, and a traditional object on the bottom left, in the area which represent one of the physical god, the water god. So this is the party of the overall campus that you're looking at. And this is the green inner space of that overall campus party as well. So I had to consider designing, because I was not designing for myself. I was designing for people of a different region, not within the West. I had to consider a lot of things when I was designing. One thing I had to consider was conventional care versus non-conventional care. And the reason that is because within that region, money is lacking. Money is lacking in a deep way because of, again, corruption, lack of infrastructure, because of corruption. Because of corruption, there is a lack of infrastructure, both soft and hard infrastructure. And for that reason, work environment is not safe. So healthcare workers are unmotivated to go to work. And many people are unmotivated to join the profession. Therefore, Liberia lacks a lot of human resources within the healthcare sector. And so for that reason, many people die. So how can we come back there within a space to be able to produce an effective and holistic healing environment that will allow infant mortality to decrease? This is where unconventional care comes, which is also known as sort of traditional. So there's this a new sort of care system that has been used for over centuries, but it's becoming much more effective. Colombia is one country that actually took that idea to run with it, and it also helped them from 2005 to now. It has decreased the infant mortality risk significantly, and that is the kangaroo care, which you see Daddy is performing right here. He has baby close to his chest, helping the baby to regulate temperature. This is in low birth rate baby and premature baby. They cannot regulate their own body temperature effectively. Next is biophilia, which is basically nature. According to many studies, nature has helped, it actually helped to improve and speed up recovery process. So these people are very nature-like too within that environment. This is this is Sano County. They live in nature, and if you're designing a center, you cannot take that away because it almost is part of that. And it's some people would say it's not a choice. It's not a choice, but it is a choice to choose to stay here, and they love where they live, and they don't want to leave. So I also had to think about culture, community, and family. Also, I have to think about craftsmanship and cost, which later on you'll see in the design. Culture, how the center is designed to sort of, bring our identity of the people, and also community, the way in which it's shaped to sort of create that community space. The rooms are designed with the idea of family in mind. Craftsmanship is how some of the built-in millwork, which actually will cut costs within the region. There are a lot of people who have craftsmanship that can actually build things that will actually cut costs as well. So the type of patient within the space that we'll be looking at, outpatient, which is the prenatal area, low risk patient, and also complicated birth, high risk patient as well. So the programming, overall programming, will be looking at major spaces. It will be the prenatal care, the obstetrical care, medical dispensary, medicine dispensary, education center, practitioner center, and sanitation dispensary as well. So the obstetrical care include labor rooms, delivery rooms, surgical rooms. And then after the up to the obstetrical care, we'll be looking at postpartum rooms in the NICU pods. So this is the overall setup and adjacency or bubble diagram of the space itself. You can see that the dispensary is close to the prenatal care. The labor and obstetrical are next to each other, which is the labor and the delivery. And then also the postpartum and education center. Education center is basically for women, for them to come over and be able to learn about how to take care of themselves, how to take care of that baby, empowering them as well. And the training center for practitioners as well. So the adjacency diagram. You can see how this is set up within the adjacency diagram, and I will take you through that space. So material, when I was thinking of material, I had to think in sort of this sort of a compact, or I'm trying to think of the word, but thinking of how to look at materials, how to cut costs as well. So we have to look at local materials first before you go outside. So things like stones, wood, clay, sand, they're very rarely available and easy to use to actually build the overall space. And then you have to look on the continent. So places like Egypt, Morocco, they make tiles. So that's easy for you to be able to import. That's also cut costs as well. Paint, cement, and glass as well. International material, which is not readily available within the continent. Wood veneer, wall protection, fabrics, gypsum board, plexiglass, and steel. So these are some of the materials. You can see how they sort of play with each other as well. So case study. I looked at the Ku Tech Park Hospital this is located in Singapore. This hospital is basically a hospital within a garden. This hospital has been proven to actually save lives. 93% of people who go over there with acute illnesses come out cured or healed. And they say the reason why is because of the sort of nature environment that is built within that hospital. So another hospital I look at is the APC Medical Care. This is in Mexico City, in Mexico. And the large windows, the big large windows is something I really look at to see how you can bring in the natural daylight, sort of combining it, the outside with the inside and not sort of separating that spaces as well. So another medical center I look at, this is the MEDICLINIC of Dubai. I look at the large room and the large spaces, looking at the fact that they're big, that culture based as well is based on family as well, and how large that medical center is. And also that labor room, you can see how they separate that labor, that tub, that sort of water birthing as well. Oh, sorry, this is frozen. Sorry, it froze on me. So this is the overall setup of the floor plan. It's very large, so you can really see it in detail. So I'm going to flush a lot of important spaces out and let you and talk about those spaces as well. So the first space you're going to walk into when you walk into some of these spaces will be your nurses station, which is almost like the welcome desk. It's going to be a combination of the reception and the nurses station as well. So this is the overall rendering of that space. You can see within that space, there's still sort of identity within that space, but you can see those natural wood that have been played with, texture as well, to sort of bring out like sort of that identity within that space. And we'll see more. So there's a way in which I sort of decided to design the space to not totally remove the total essence of what the hospitals are, but also sort of look at it and see how you can renovate it and make it a little more better than what it was. So within that hallway, there's a hallway right on your left. This is the hallway you'll be looking at. And this is the hallway. You can see the rooms and the room numbers within that hallway, which is easily very clear and very easy to see. This is sort of like a wayfinding as well. And then you can see this rendering at nighttime as well. So the next one is the labor room. So the labor room, this is where you see all the detail. And the labor room, it requires very important spaces. Your soil room. Soil room is very, very, very important. Also as well, it requires your cleaning room. Within that labor room, you can actually see the family area here. I actually create a family area where at night, these beds can be pulled out. They're pull up beds, and they allow the family to be able to sleep over at night. Now, many of these people are walking for hours to come to the space. So let's say someone is in labor and she has not dilated yet too much. We cannot say, hey, you know what? You're not dilated yet, go home, right? So what's the most important thing to do? Create a space that family and her can stay in until she's dilated enough, and then before she's moved to the delivery room, which is a very important part as well. The next part, sorry. So you can see the elevation within that space, that large windows. I brought in some very large windows, family area, and that headboard, as well as some of the rooms also have ribbon windows on top of them as well. So this is that rendering of that space. Again, I had to think about how to cut costs. So what I did was I used paint. We all know as designers, paint is the cheapest among all the classes within every material. So my goal was, how can I utilize paint to create texture and dynamic within the space? How can I utilize the cheapest material without breaking costs? So the next space is the delivery space. So the delivery area is where the woman is going to go and have the baby. And you can see again, there is that clean room and that soil room. The soil and the clean room dump outside into the gray area, the gray zone. So within the middle area, you see there is a top. So there's that sort of bringing in that unconventional and conventional as well. So there's a sort of traditional birth they have. It's not really a water birth, it's a birth where she sort of squat. It's called a squatting birth. So that top allowed them, the shape of the top also allowed them to actually pile that tub with a lot of cushion, and she can squat and that baby can be born. And also she has the choice to actually also have a conventional birth as well. And then you can see that overall, and also within the delivery space, because delivery is so private, you cannot have a window that people can see into. So what happened is we have this ribbon window as what I allow light to come in the space, but at the same time giving privacy to the room. So the next space is the postpartum room. You can see that postpartum room. The postpartum room, again, you can see all the soil rooms sort of dump outside into the gray area, into that gray zone, where it becomes non-contaminant. The reason why the soil room is positioned that way, so to avoid cross-contamination of the other spaces. So within that space, you can see that space sort of, I bring the space over in the corner over as well. You can also see in that space, mommy and baby basket are very close to each other, the chair, which encourages skin to skin care, which encourages breastfeeding as well. Within that area, there's a baby birth, there's a baby care area. One thing about this area, they love really their family. So when a woman is born, when a woman had to have a child, she's not allowed to do much for almost 3 to 4 months. Family, all the women in her family, that goes to take care of that baby and make sure that that baby is okay. All she does is breastfeed the baby and get up in the morning and take care of herself. So having that space makes it it helps that to be able for them to be able to accomplish that within that space as she's there. So this is the rendering of that room. And you can see that overall ribbon window as well. Also, this is the family area. Very simple, very clean, natural wood, using the natural wood in the area to also cut costs as well. And also this unit is a built-in unit. This is where we're going to use a lot of craftsmen within those seating to have those built-in unit to cut costs in that region as well. So this is the baby area as well, which is a lot of these things can be built within that region. A lot of these things can be manufactured. People have these skills, but they don't use them because they don't feel like they're important. So there is something I really did within the bathroom. The bathroom, so there's a special care, which is unconventional care as well they tend to do. It's called the steaming pot. Whenever they have babies, they tend to do this thing where it's called steaming. It sort of releases blood to avoid blood clogging within the body. So they will sit over a steaming pot. So having a built-in steam pot, whether it's okay, they can actually use this steam pot, put herbs in this pot and steam to actually allow that blood. So that special feature is placed in that bathroom. So the NICU, I decided to go with a pod NICU instead of an open ward NICU. There was a research that was done at the University of California that actually shows that actually babies, it is hard for babies to recover in those sort of open ward rooms because it's very loud noise. It's not, and mom also worry as well. So the goal of this space is to actually still keep family interaction. Mom stays, she doesn't have to go home too much all the time. She stays and other family goes home to get stuff. And while she's here interacting with baby, mom and dad. So you can see right here, there's a pull-out bed as well, the couch as well that sits. And also you can see there is within the space, there will be 2 sections of this. Within the space, there's 3 babies in this space as well, allowing family to have privacy to interact with babies as well. And also this space allow people to come and sit, family member to come and sit and talk about, basically share ideas, share information on how to really better, the health of that prenatal or low weight baby, as well as how to empower themselves to become mothers and fathers. So so we're about to get into the community space as well. And the community space allowed this is the mood board of the community space, sort of like this very nature-like kind of color, bringing in that space as we're keeping that color within the natural environment of we saw earlier how it looks like within that area as well. So this is the daytime rendering of that community space. It's the largest space, but I just sort of spot render. And the reason why is because this area is sort of like, they're in that area, they love to meet, they love to sit, they love to have conversation. At night, they will be coming here to actually talk. Many of these women will leave their rooms and they will come here to sort of gather and hang out with each other in large numbers. This is the nighttime rendering of this space. So you can see how it's going to look like, and it would be sort of like tiki lights that will be sort of put everywhere to sort of cut costs as well, because they cannot afford, conventional or electrical lighting. So this is another nighttime rendering of that spot as well. And so thank you. Any questions, comment? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arjealy. So we will open the floor to Karen. Karen, if you'd like to provide 15 minutes of cross-examination, please. And then Rodolfo, you'll have 10 minutes because Christian was unable to make the call today.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Arjealy. I really appreciated your presentation. I learned a lot today. I did not have the opportunity to review your manuscript in advance, which would have helped me prepare a little bit more strongly for your presentation, but I learned a lot in the presentation that you shared. I wanted to share that I really appreciated your communication of the thought process behind your color scheme and the importance of those colors, as well as your explanation of your proposed material selections. I thought that was very well done, and was informative to our audience to share exactly where those had come from and your thinking behind those. So thank you for that. The presentation was very grounded in the cultural identity of the space. I saw that in some of the design elements that you chose, certainly in the color palette and the finish selections. Tell me a little bit about what informed some of the geometry in the spaces, particularly in the detailing. I'm thinking of the baby prep area. I apologize, I've got a car horn in my background here. The baby prep area, and also in the waiting space. Those had very strong geometric shapes to them, and what informed some of that thinking?
So whenever you look at Africans' huts, that doors tend to be that sort of arc shape, which sort of represent transition from the inside to the outside. So that was that idea. When you take the baby to clean that baby up in that prep space, it's a little, and it's soil, so you have to sort of transition it into sort of a much more, cuteness and smelling good. So that idea of transitioning within that was the idea behind that, in which sort of, again, within that color, the red color within that transformation, transition it. At the same time, giving birth, it's a transformation. That baby is being transferred from the bottom, from the stomach, from ingest to outside, as well. So this is what that idea was about, the idea of transformation and transitioning.
Excellent, thank you. You also spoke a good deal about the need for safety and some of the safety concerns for patients. Tell me a little bit about some of your thinking there, whether it was materials that you were using, or you talked a little bit about clean and soiled rooms and the importance and location of those. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, so a lot of the international materials, which are vinyls, which are very cleanable and very durable as well, those will be put in within the medical spaces. Within the welcome desk, what you see is going to be a local, but it's going to be hard wax, because it doesn't really get cleaned as often as within the rooms. So the local materials will be mainly outside, and some of them within the welcome area, but the things like the vinyl and the wall covering and things like that will be within that medical spaces, which will allow easy sort of cleaning and also sanitation as well. So that's how it was chosen.
Thank you. Clearly, the importance of family in this birthing process and the development of the child was very important to this culture. You shared some of the moments where you would help to incorporate the family. Do you have a sense of how large each patient group would be? And what are some of the additional elements that you would consider to better accommodate them?
So within the area, it's within the overall campus itself, there is a space where family can actually go and stay together in numbers, but also having that space is like I said, there's that pull-out bed will also accommodate. One of the biggest thing is grandparents are very important in the process of raising children. And so it's very crucial, especially the grandmother, to always be in that room, to have access to that baby. It's very important in many African culture. So that particular part is something that cannot be compromised. It has to be accommodated for them, having that pulled out bed, and also having the space as well. So the rooms are, because there are three within the room, and I'm trying to see the size. They're pretty large sizes. So they're about 54 feet by, if I'm not mistaken, 28 feet. So they're fairly large room to accommodate, and also having that kids area So kids, you know, during the daytime, kids can kind of run around. If mom don't want kids to be outside all the time playing, want kids to rest, kids can still be in that space because they do bring that whole family. When I say the whole family, I mean the youngest in the kids will come with them. They will bring that kid along with them as well.
And is it predominantly a matriarchal society in that they would bring mostly women along,
Yes.
or would the men come as well?
It's predominantly matriarchal society. So when it comes to birth, women are much more involved within the birthing process, and men later on come on later on. So when the child is a little bit older, men start to sort of take you know, that another role, but they take the role of providers, right? So the one who literally provide the meal, the food, the, you know, the money for the baby to be, you know, healthy and things like that. But later on, to come in with that touch processing as well.
But at this point in the process, it's really based around the women and the
female. Yes.
Yes. And so you've laid out your plan in a series of modules. This postpartum room is a good example of that. There's a series of modules here separated by some support spaces. Was there research or thinking in particular that led you to the idea of 3 beds in these spaces and 3 isolates in the NICU stations? What helped you break down that module?
So this module was actually within that idea of community. So they like to be together. So having them separated, it would sort of prolong the healing process. One of the things even within the labor room, when people are there and she's in pain, it sort of take her mind off that sort of pain, so she can just sort of become that, you know, they communicate with her. But within the delivery room, the delivery module is quite different. Because it's absolutely supposed to be sanitary, so it's not really a family oriented, but it has a space where one family can be, you know, because women tend to stay one night and then move to the postpartum ward. So the idea of this is to see how, you know, to keep them in the same space, to keep them, you know, sort of like in that community space where they still feel like, you know, they're within that space as well, and it's communal. So that was the idea behind that, was the research within the region as well.
And then in your NICU space, you talked a little bit about some of the needs of the child itself, of the infant, and their development. Infant development follows a very specific process.
Yes.
So it really starts with that tactile. So you've addressed that with the kangaroo care and ensuring that, you know, there is this kind of skin to skin relationship. And then their development moves through the vestibular and establishing their balance and their kind of sense of space and awareness and how their body, you know, moves in that space.
Right.
And then auditory and finally visual, which is why a lot of these spaces tend to be quite dark, to allow the baby to move through those sort of 3 steps previous before they move into kind of visual. Tell me a little bit about what you think as far as sort of finishes and lighting for those NICU spaces and how that might help a baby's development.
Within the lighting area within the NICU, first of all, the reason there was a research that was done that actually proved that babies who are in pods, you know, they tend to heal faster because, again, there is that lack of overwork, nurses overwork, the noises are not overly, you know, and mother and family don't feel uncomfortable to touch a baby, you know, when they're in that space. What I was thinking low lighting, because harsh lighting, even with us as an adult, it can be very intensive. Low lighting, but just spotlighting where nurses and doctors needs to be able to see and work in those spaces, to help to actually with that visual process, that space with how you call it, the auditory aspect of things, creating those pods allowed to create a sort of buffer within noises. Also, it helps to decrease the noises that are coming through that ward, so it doesn't create too much echo, which helps with that auditive development as well.
Excellent, you've really thought this through. So the intention would be for each one of these modules to, you know, one of them to be built here in Santa County. Would you intend for this to be deployed to other regions to provide access for
Yes, and I
women?
would love this to act as a model, because this particular skill is it's very rare within that region. It's very rare even within the African diaspora. Interior design, interior architect is very rare. So having a plan, because all of the hospitals that were built, it wasn't really built with plan. It was just built with sort of, okay, if we can make a long hallway, we can be able to just walk through that hallway and we can be able to see patients. So my hope is this can become a model where it can develop more and more, and then become a model that can be used across the region. It can even go all the way, because Sierra Leone also need this as well as Ivory Coast as well. They need this, and this can be sort of all those people in this region are the same exact people, same language, same culture, same dialects, same identity as well. So hopefully hopefully this can be something that can be built across within the region.
One final question. You've moved into this level of detail very quickly, which is wonderful. Could you take a moment and sort of walk us through the flow of the overall floor plan? And if you're doing that, talk a little bit about how the circle might be used to help keep both the patients and the staff members safe.
Can you sit up, please? Can you repeat that again, please?
Sure. I was also, while you're looking at that overall floor plan, the circle is a very historic form when it comes to safety. And you talked about the safety of the patients as well as the staff members, and maybe even concern for the staff members moving into healthcare. And I think using the circle is an excellent way to kind of combat some of those outside concerns. So if you have some thoughts about safety as you walk through that floor plan, I'd love to hear those.
Okay, gotcha. So I will go back to the overall floor plan. Sorry, it takes a while. I always get stuck in this area. So within this area, you can see that barrier where it creates like that ring, that sort of barrier around it. The compound becomes its own separate, entity within the area, within the region itself. Through here, this will be like the entering level. Here is the prenatal. Right next to this prenatal, this is the dispensary as well. And you can see that area where, vans and how you call it, parking can park to bring in those medical supply. Right in this area as well, I was hoping to add a little bit of pediatric, just a little time within attached to that prenatal care as well. And then right here, we see that laundry area. Within this area as well, this will be the laundry area. This will be the gray zone where all the soil will sort of come through and dump out and then come in to get within the laundry, going to the laundry area. Here, where within the space right here, this is the labor. This is the labor. This is the delivery. This is the postpartum. One of the biggest thing I hope to as I develop more and more, because my goal is to really develop this project, is to really over the next 3 years to develop this project, is to also create outside spaces. There will be a lot of green walls here as well. There'll be a lot of green walls to bridge and create that safety, that safety issue for anyone just walking to the campus as well. But through here, there will be a bridge between here that will actually cover for that sanitation when women are being transferred from one ward to the other. There will be that bridge in between. That will be an actual cover up that will actually protect, and also protect these women in a sanitary way as well as they're being moved through them. Within each of these spaces right here, you can see that's the nurses area in one spot, and then this is the nurses area in another spot. And right here, we create a little small nurses area, and over here as well, a large one area over here as well. And then over here within the NICU, this nurses area is also meant for the NICU as well as for the postpartum. And then right here, you can see that's all the small that's the centralized nursing station as well. Also, there are individual live nursing station, which I'm going to sort of bring closer to that floor plan. That you can see it right here within that space, which allow the nurses to see what is happening within these spaces. and you can see them right out the windows, right out the doors, out the windows right here as well, which allow them to see within the room and to be able to, if family member need to call them in quick, they can be able to sort of wave their hand and say, hey, there's something going on, instead of them waiting to pass through or having the family member to go out as well. So having these individualized nursing station make it very efficient and sufficient enough and efficient for nurses and doctors to be able to do that job effectively.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciated your presentation.
Thank you.
Rodolfo, we will open the floor up for your comments. Thank you, Karen.
Well, thank you very much, Arjealy, for the whole, walk through your process, your thought process, and what inspired you to make all of these decisions. I'm very curious about a few things. Since from the very beginning, it's really exciting, all of the possibilities in textual components, in how to apply very local craftsmanship, and it's such a rich culture, and how that can be translated into healthcare, which is, for me, it's fascinating. Starting with the black color, like, to understand that black, it's the opposite of what we normally believe. It's fantastic. I think it's really, really interesting from a design perspective, because we're used to do the opposite, right? So I'm very curious about two things. Number one, and Karen touched upon it, it's the use of the circle as a floor plan. And when we see the overall floor plan, you can literally see the warp of these rooms, and how these rooms are not orthogonal itself. So I'm super curious on how that circle will help you convey that message that you wanna bring with the addition of cultural elements there, right? And then the other thing that I'm curious as well, it's like seeing here the labor room, when you have multiple families in the same space, some privacy, it's needed. So I'm curious on if you thought of like an ephemeral thing that can, like a curtain or something, that it's it's also it can be part of this whole addition of craftsmanship elements there that can be used as a object that helps you actually rearrange the space in a way. That's something that I'm wondering if you thought about something like that. And my other question is related to that you sort of like addressed it before. It's how do you thought of the experience from extremely rural context into this very clean black and white space, and how would that affect the the psyches of the mothers to be there?
Gotcha. So the first question, the circle in many African culture, including this area, and within the design, within the inspiration, one of their god is actually in the shape of a circle. That the physical existence of the god. This is this ring right here. It's in the shape of a circle. So circle is very important, which I said it means basically the totality of life, and this is what we call basically the circle of life, right? Birth, rebirth, death, afterlife, and all of those, right? So they believe that life is the continuation or the existence of the universe is a continuation, and it does not stop at one point, it does not end, it continues. So we are born, we die, we go to the afterlife, and then we are rebirth again, right? So this is what they believe in within that concept. And so this is a really perfect place to sort of put that within that space as well. Mother goes there, new mother goes there, and the innocence, of not being a mother died and to become a mother. And that transition is sort of process. And then, so this is why this space is like, and then the grandparents who were there, they're sort of close to that, they basically are having that communication with that grandchild, because where they're about to go right now is where that, that grandkid just came from. So that was the idea. There's a book called Of Water of Spirit. It's called by Melodoma, where he talks about this in African culture and what the significance is within this process. Also, you spoke about the separation of spaces. Definitely, that's something I was thinking to a certain degree. There's some level of privacy while still creating community within that space as well. Definitely, there's something I would have to sort of work into the space, because I think it's very needed as well to a certain degree. Though they're very communal, there are times there are privacy where privacy is absolutely needed. And then the last question, if you can please repeat the last question for me too. I can't remember the last question.
No, I was curious about how do you thought on the experience from this mom to be,
Yes.
from a very rural context into this very like black and white, super contemporary clinical environment, and if you thought on these like possible frontiers through the space that can help you, make up your mind on, okay, I'm gonna give birth, basically.
So the reason why I did, so a hint of cultural identity is within the space. One of the things is because it's such a medical space, and if it becomes too textual, it becomes sort of, it's harder to see sort of dirt and things. So the reason for the clean sort of spaces was basically sanitary reason. And within the rural area as well, they don't really use textual in that overall space, only in like that object, like the pots and the clothing and things like that. Because that overall space is sort of just open spaces. So to create that, I also try to thinking of the homes, the rooms, that kitchen versus the living room and how it sort of flow in. This is how I sort of thought about the space as well, which is very open, very large as well. And it's just very plain, but usually the texture comes within the pots, within objects, smaller objects as well.
Okay. Great. I love how you just synthesize your presentation, which is a big congrats for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Rodolfo. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. Thank you very much.
These are great questions, and we have a few extra minutes. Karen, if you'd like to ask anything else of Arjealy.
No, I don't have any other questions. I do want to echo Rodolfo's comment that it was very well presented and very organized in your presentation. You led us through it systematically, which was very helpful as an audience member.
Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you.
Okay, this is wonderful. Then congratulations, Arjealy. I would like to extend a sincere thank you on behalf of RIT Interior Design Program to Karen Freeman and our committee members, Rodolfo and Christian. Christian could not be with us today, but throughout the process, Rodolfo, you in particular, as Arjealy mentioned, you provided such incredible feedback for her and guided her along the way. We're indebted to both of you for your thoughtful cross-examination of her work. And I would also like to thank our moderator, William, who helped out behind the scenes here on the call. And I'd like to thank our audience, both here and in person and online, for your attention and support. So the committee and the examining scholar will now enter the breakout room for deliberations, and this completes the oral defense for Arjealy Wisseh. You are welcome to stay on for the next presentation, and thank you all for attending. Congratulations, Arjealy.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everybody, for coming.